This is a HSRCA social event that was promoted to give recognition to and look at the work that very people have had access to over a period of time of Bob Britton, Mr.Rennmax, and the fact that he made nearly 100 racing cars and some road cars over his period of time. And most of those racing cars in particular were as good or better than the overseas factory cars that are imported to race in Australia. So if we then go from there, first question, Bob, how about we just break the ice by going back to the future, so to speak? Tell us what is your latest project for the automotive art for your museum?
Oh, thanks, Kerry. My latest project it's not a replica, it's a vehicle based on a 300S Maserati. The fact that my good friend Les had the nails for one, and I admired the shape, it was a beautiful shape, I decided that I would design and build a chassis to go underneath it. I'm in the process of doing it at the very moment. Yeah.
Thanks, Bob. Describe the processes, many challenges you faced for the construction of first Renmax, which was effectively a Formula One car with a 2.2 litre Coventry Climax engine at the time for Aussie and Old Hall, who were the sawmillers of Woolgoolga, North New South Wales.
Through various acquaintances, I got to know the Hall family, and they had a 1959 model Cooper. Noel subsequently panged the thing at Southport or somewhere, I think. Anyway, they had the wreck there, and at the time the Lotus 18 was being constructed, and it was revolutionising race car design. And I approached Noel and I said, how about we make a Lotus type chassis and put all the Cooper gear, running gear, onto the chassis? And he said, go for it, boy. And so that was it. Anyway, I used the Cooper engine, gearbox, wheels and brakes, but I made new rear uprights and sort of made a Lotus out of the Cooper. Okay. And it went quite well. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that, Bob. Now going further back in time, tell us of your experiences, particularly at high school, and then after that your subsequent apprenticeship. What influences did your teachers have on your obvious engineering drafting skills? And a number of your schoolmates were collectively almost created the who's who of Sydney motor racing at the time. Tell us some detail about that phase of your education in motor racing that still drives you to do the work you do.
Yeah, well, I went to Homebush Boys High School. I wasn't brilliant academically. I was more interested in doing what I loved, which was drawing and manual work. And luckily, in fourth year, we had a teacher called Jack Bathgate, who, in hindsight, he was one of us. He was a bit of a redhead, and he showed us about triangulation and all sorts of things. And it was a great influence on my future design capabilities. And the other, in the same year, we had Frank Pliny, Paul Bolton, there was Rob Kirkby, there was someone else. Ralph Bellamy, yeah, Ralph went on to greater things, you know, he was a top designer.
And Bob Cutler.
And Bob Cutler, yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, Nick.
Okay, Bob. Okay. What sort of, going to, customers were knocking at your door to build Formula Libre, Formula Juniors, hill climb cars using a Lotus 20 type chassis with fiberglass body. How did these cars evolve, and what were your responses to your customers to their new Renmaxes?
Well, I was still on a very steep learning curve. I was just running around the gills, and I met Phil Booth, who had just bought the first Lotus 20 off Gagans, and I got to know him. Anyway, got friendly with him, and I suggested, I'll make you a spare chassis if you lend me give me access to your car. So he said, oh yeah, he went for it. I made a jig off that chassis, and that became the basis of my BN1 cars. And I updated them to Lotus 22 type specs. So I made a rear upright and with a top link and everything. And I made quite a few of them, and they went quite well. Peter Williamson was one, Kingsley Hibbard, Barry Garter had one. Anyway, I made a few of those.
Okay. Just going through that, then obviously during that process, you were designing, having wheels cast in magnesium, which was an incredible exercise. What and why did the changes come about from the standard Lotus Type 2020 to the tail end of the BN1 group? So,
well, we just gradually made improvements. Like we all used to read Autosport and keep up to date with what was happening, and people come in with various engines, and I just modified the cars to suit that particular. That's the Peter Williamson car, now owned by Harry Hickling. Yeah, it was supercharged. When Peter had it, we had a lot of trouble with it because he had a rotary vane supercharger and it had just too much inertia, and if you lick the throttle, it snapped the Gilmer belts. But anyway, it seems to be going very well in Harry Hickling's hands at the moment.
Okay. Thanks, Bob. That's the Harry Hickling car again. The next one here. Yeah. Keep going. There. Keep going.
That is the Noel Bryan car, and he is going extremely well. Yeah.
Which is the old Kingsley Hibbard car, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. But originally had a whole bay engine in it when I made it for Kingsley. I don't know what it's.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lovely cars. Okay. 1965. You designed and built your first Mark I Rennmax V, which we've since termed the BN4, and as a production car proved very, very successful, and a lot of people that drove those cars at the time went on to much bigger and better things. So give us your recollections of your contact with that group of Formula V drivers, and how it evolved over a period of time.
The Formula V came about. Jeff Sykes was promoting it, and VW Australia wanted to get involved. And at the time, I was doing a lot of work for Greg Cusack, Bruce Burr team, and VW imported a Ford car from America, and when it arrived, Bruce Burr rang me and he said, the Vees here, come up and have a look. Went up and had a look, and I thought, I could do better than that. And I was heavily involved with working on Brabhams at the time, so I designed a new car with a Brabham type cockpit and everything, but the rest of it was pure me.
Bob, 1965, you designed and built your first Mark I Formula Rennmax V, which since been termed the BN4, and as a production race car for the big series in Sydney, Victoria, in New South Wales, Victoria, they were very, very successful. What are your thoughts and recollections with some of that Formula V group that I think you've kept in contact with over all these years?
Yeah, many of them, Bob Muir and Bob Young and quite a few other guys, they became lifelong friends. They were a very tight-knit group, the Formula V guys in those days. And it all came about because Greg Cusack was a VW dealer. VW of Australia approached him to get it moving. They brought a form car out from America and got me to have a look at it. And I designed a car, well, with more of a space frame chassis than what the form car was, and it went from there.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Go to question 8 then. Some of Australia's top racing drivers successfully drove Rennmaxes in one form or another. One of the most successful ones was Max Stewart, and he was Formula 2 champion in Australia at the time. What are your recollections then of Max Stewart and the Renmaxes that he ran at the time before he unfortunately died in a Formula 5000 crash?
Yeah, he bought the first of that model that I ever made, and I didn't know him at the time. But anyway, he started to go quite good, and we used to go away together. He was a good friend of Bob Young's. We used to go to all the race meetings, and he was a very good driver.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Beaut shots of Max, and he after he bought his first second-hand V, then second-hand BN2, the BN1. Then he had Bob make a brand spanking new one based on a Brabham for the BN2, which was successful. Okay, going to question 9 then. The later racing cars, now known as the BN3s, which are very successful, obviously mostly based on Brabham BT23s. What's your view of the Brabham sort of Tornaq design philosophy at the time, and your practical experience with those vehicles that you constructed and modified and made them work very, very successfully?
That model came about because Alec Mildred approached me to make a replica chassis. He had the Brabham Alpha, and they stripped it down. They brought the Brabham Alpha chassis down, and I made a jig off it. And then they commissioned me to make another chassis with a different engine bay to suit a four-cylinder. I used an Alfa Romeo four-cylinder engine. And I made it, and I think Kevin Bartlett drove it, that's right, and while Frank Gardner was driving the V8 Alpha. Anyway, we went from there.
Yeah, very determined Bob Muir in that shot, incredible.
Yep.
And Doug Eastman in this shot.
Yep.
It was a very unusual shot.
Right. Yeah.
Ken Goodwin, also very, very successful at fast car after going through Formula Vees. Yeah, okay.
That's
fabulous shot.
That is Chad Wheeler at Speed on Tweed.
Yeah, fabulous shot. And that car's since been sold twice. It's come back to New South Wales, which is terrific. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Bob, going on then to question 10. You made a very neat set of Monocoque chassis cars, both for motor racing, Formula 2, like this one here, and for sports cars, which included the steam-powered Gvang with a very, very incredible body work on it that was at the Sydney Motor Show. Anyway, Bob, just tell us about the Monocoque and how that came about.
Yeah, I think I made 5 of those. What I used to like about making chassis was the cockpit. The biggest problem was making a cockpit. So I was influenced by a D-type Jaguar where they had a monocoque central section with subframes bolted. And I liked the tubes at the front because you could get in and work on it. And just the cockpit was monocoque. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very spectacular, very, very fast with 5-litre Repco engines in, starting off with a BMW 4-cylinder engine for Doug MacArthur. Right. And then gradually got sort of different engines in, and there's Doug MacArthur there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the first one was for Doug MacArthur with the BMW. I forget the name. It was people that used to modify BMW engines. Yeah. Anyway, he had one of them, and then he sold that. Ray Hanger bought another car, the same thing. He bought the BMW of Doug engine, the BMW, and Doug bought the V8 Repco out of the Lotus 39, Leo's Lotus 39. And, yeah.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Okay, going to question 11. Your second iteration of Formula Vees came about and ended up with a very, very different looking race car, just as successful and purposeful. And they all came from your tiny little Croydon Park workshop at the back of a semi-detached cottage. And you had many buyers lined up just over a short space of time to knock out sort of over a dozen of those in a 12-month period. What were the main differences, Bob, between, say, the Mark I Rennmax V and the Mark II Rennmax V, which is this one here, almost 10 years later?
Yeah, well, I was never happy with the first Formula V. It worked all right, but I had chassis tubes running up underneath the VW engine, and the tubes are very close to the pushrod tubes. And if you put the engine in and you happen to slip, the engine went down and crushed the tubes, and they had to pull the damn thing apart. So the later one there, I made just struts coming down from the rail hoop to support the rear end. Yeah, and it was a lot easier to change the engine.
Yeah, and we certainly had some top drivers go through both the early BN4s and the later BN8s, which is Damon Becky is one of them, sort of champion a couple of years running. Okay, so then going to next question, question 12, Bob. You had a lot of work to do over a period of time and responsible for modifying, beautiful car that one, modifying a lot of cars, Lotus 7s over the years, particularly for the Gagan Clubman series, including replica chassis, and we won't talk too much about that. Tell us your thoughts on the whole concept of Chapman's original design for the Lotus 7, and how that inspired you to make replicas of, and certainly some very original variants of that as we're looking at the moment.
Oh, well, the Lotus 7 is a classic, you know, like there's about up to 1 million replicas now, they're all based on the Lotus 7. It was the early Clubman car, and of course now there was that many variations on the design, but all with the basic Lotus layout, yeah, and I've made quite a few of them,
yeah. Yeah, you've certainly even gone from front engine, small engine ones to large V6 super type Clubman's front engine, rear engined Toyota Corolla powered vehicles, the D and rear suspension, all very very magic and very Renmax.
Yeah, can I talk about that car there?
That car there.
Yeah, that is a rear engine Lotus 7, for the want of a better description. And I bought a Corolla from the auctions, and I've used the engine, gearbox, the drive shafts, everything. I even put the radiator in the same position in front of the engine to keep everything a la Corolla. But the rear end, because the engine's so wide, it's very hard to put a wishbone suspension in. Like the wishbones get involved with the engine. So I decided to go to Dion. And what I've done, I've got the Corolla rear uprights, took the struts off, turned them through 90 degrees, and I bolted plates on there and attached it to a Dion tube. And to me, it's a very neat arrangement. It's very simple, and it works quite well.
Yeah, beautiful little car. Thanks for that, Bob. Going on to a next set of questions. Next question, which is number 13. You've built a diverse and very competitive set of sports racing cars over the time, starting off very early on with a Milton Maserati, which is now sporting a Traco Oldsmobile engine, just restored, MRCs, and as we said before, various Renmax BN6s, including Jay Bondini's one that grabbed the news for having been stolen and worth a lot of money plus the bang. How did these various sports cars come about, and what the owners have to do to get you to construct machines different to the run of race cars you're doing at the time, including Frank Matich's very famous and very convincing SR3s, and there it showed you as being one of the mechanics for Frank Matich at the Can-Am in 1967. Famous stuff, but I don't think you ever got the recognition you deserved for the work and effort and whatever you put into that Matich car.
Oh, no, I was quite happy. I don't look for recognition. Like, I'm happy if I do a good job. And the car went quite... Yeah. We were a bit underpowered. When we went to America, like we were up against like 8-litre Chevys and it was just, no, he performed quite well in America.
Yeah, and he performed very well in Sydney.
Oh, yeah.
And Victoria. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Question 14, Bob. You've been honoured very well from the former Prime Minister of Australia, John Howard, and more recently by CAMS for excellence of engineering. I know your family were absolutely chuffed about that last one and went down to Melbourne with you. What were your sort of thoughts in the lead up to those presentations?
Well, I can remember going out to the letterbox and I picked the letter up and it's got CAMS on the front and I thought, oh, what the hell do they want?
Yeah.
And I opened it up and I received the Phil Irving award and I thought, oh, gee, that's terrific, you know. But then reading on, I had to go to Melbourne to collect it and make a speech and all that, and of course that was a bit overwhelming for me, and I thought, geez, I can't do this. I wouldn't even know how to get to the airport to fly down there. Anyway, the family moved in and they said, Dad, you've got to do it. This is once in a lifetime. So we all got together, my daughter, well, the whole family come, but my daughter looked after me on the plane and got me down there. She found accommodation and they mothered me all weekend. And in hindsight, it was a fantastic weekend.
Outstanding contributions and engineering excellence in motorsport at Australian or at an international level. In honour of the remarkable achievements of the late Phil Irving OBE, an outstanding Aussie engineer whose efforts impacted motorsport really on the world stage. The Phil Irving Award recognises outstanding skill and achievement by an individual Australian engineer or an Australian engineering company devoted to serving and positively contributing to competitive motorsport. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome this year's Phil Irving Award winner, and that is Bob Britton.
I'd like to thank CAMS for honouring me with this award. I really do appreciate it. I'd like to say that motor racing has been my passion for over 60 years. I can remember coming down here to Albert Park in 1956 as an 18-year-old apprentice and watching Sterling Moss-St-Jean in the Olympic Grand Prix, which motivated me to build cars. anyway, moving on, I've made well over 100 cars, and I'm just a small operation, virtually by myself, and I'm still going, but only just. And the fact that it's called the Phil Irving Award is very special to me, because Phil Irving was one of my heroes. At home, I've got a drawing by Phil Irving of a Repco Brabham engine, and down the bottom it is signed P.E. Irving, and it is one of my little treasures. And I just hope there is nobody here from Repco tonight that might want the drawing back. Anyway, I would like to thank my family for all the support and for flying down with me, and my good friend Tony and his wife. They've made the effort to come down and share this moment with me. Thank you again, Cams, and it's been great. Thank you all.
Thanks for that, Bob, and everyone's unbelievably proud of you for what you've done and the recognition you've been given sort of for all that work. Okay, question 15. Your pride of work is now reflected in what you're doing in your little workshop at Annangrove, which is getting a little bit bigger, with your what you call your mechanical art. And set up in your little museum with all different vehicles of all different types, and all reflect your incredible individual way of thinking and designing and building.
Yeah, well, it sort of came about because there's two stages in my life. I was building racing cars for a living, and then I had a family of a wife and 3 kids, and the way I operate, it's very hard for family commitments, just building race cars. It was hard. Anyway, I ended up through getting ill and whatnot. I ended up getting a job, and then I had my workshop here. I built a house at Annangrove, and I had all the facilities here by then, so I came home from work, and then I started building cars again, but not for customers. I just went back to how it started as a hobby, and I got more enjoyment out of it because I didn't have to feed my family off race cars. So, and I've made about 10 cars since then, and they're all down in my little museum. Yeah. And they've all got their own particular theme. Yeah.
Tell us about that shot we just saw before, Bob, a little set of drop gears, that one.
Yeah, well, Kerry brought in a model of a Lotus 16. I was besotted with the shape of it. It was just a beautiful little car. And at the same time, the guy next door gave me a BMW, a 318 BMW with a beautiful little 5-speed gearbox in it. It ticked all the boxes, so I thought I'll make one of those in the usual fashion. But with the tail, with the frontage, you always have a problem with the tail shaft. So other than sit up real high like a van, well, I decided I'll make some drop gears and drop the tail shaft down. So I dropped it down 3 inches, which made it a little bit more acceptable. Yeah.
No, it's all terrific stuff.
All the BMW. I used the wheels and the brakes, the engine, the gearbox, the diff. Used everything off the BMW. Just made a new chassis and suspension.
It's a real credit to you, Bob. All these things you've done over a period of time, and just your creative way of thinking, and then be able to transpose all of that into a mobile 4-wheel vehicle, which is just terrific. So thanks for all that, Bob, and we all appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kerry. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, Bob, tell us about your little black car, which is a replica Lotus 7, road registered. I've driven it, beautiful little vehicle. Tell us how it came about and what enjoyment it gives you.
Well, Kerry, in the latter half of my life, I went and got a job. I stopped building race cars for customers because I had a family, and it was a lot easier to support my family. And when I came home from work, I had my workshop in here, so I decided I'd go back to what I love doing, building cars. So the car that I really wanted to make was a Lotus 7, something that I could drive myself. It's basically a Lotus 7, but I've re-engineered it. I've tried to fix all the mistakes that Lotus made, and the strongest chassis and everything. And it's a lovely little car to drive. Yeah, it's
What year was it?
It'd be early 90s. Early 90s I made this. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Bob, here's your second little vehicle on display, which is the little 500cc air-cooled motorcycle engined hill-time type car. We've seen this one go from sort of virtually nothing to completion. Tell us sort of what you were looking for and how well it came out for you.
Well, when I was about 18, my sole ambition in life was to build a replica of a Mark 10 Cooper, but because I never had a workshop, I never had any money, I didn't have anything, and I just never got round to making it. And later in my life I decided to fulfil my dream, so I've made, it's not a replica of a Cooper, but it's looks like a Cooper, yeah.
Bob, this is your little white coupe. Everyone that's seen it has absolutely fallen in love with it because of the whole shape of the bodywork, which I know you designed and put together. Tell us how it came about and where it's at the moment. It looks a complete vehicle, which is just terrific. A credit to you.
Thank you, Kerry. It came about because following on from my little Lotus 7, my wife used to go for a drive and she used to complain about her hair getting blown around. So I said, I'll make you a little coupe, love, and this was it. So I sat down and designed it. It's got all MR2 running gear, and I'm very pleased with the shape. It's all mine, I'd never get it. It was too hard to get it registered, so it's just in advance. But it's a runner. Everything here goes, but it's probably, as to make it into a real car, well, probably only halfway there. It needs windscreen washers and all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Bob, this is your little Suzuki Hayabusa powered single-seater road vehicle. Very, very interesting one. Tell us about it and sort of tell us how the whole design work came about and what you would have done if you were going to do it again.
Well, my aim was to make a four-wheel motorcycle, but I've tried to make it more user-friendly than the Lotus 7 because, as you see, it's got doors, a higher windscreen, and it's quite nice to sit in it and drive on the road. But the biggest problem, it's got plenty of horsepower and it's got a Hayabusa engine, and it's all revs. I really needed a car engine in it, but other than that, I'm very pleased with it. I was going to try and save the planet with this.
do a Frank Costin.
Yeah.
So Bob, tell us about this car.
This is virtually, like, for want of a better description, this is a rear-engine Lotus 7. I tried to eliminate all the problems with the Lotus 7, mainly that there's no weight on the back wheels, so if you try and accelerate, it spins the wheel. This has got all the weight on the back wheels. It accelerates like you wouldn't believe. It's just got a standard Corolla engine, everything Corolla at the back. It was quite a simple layout at the back. Yeah.
Wonderful. So Bob, tell us about number 26.
Oh, this car came about because advertised in the HSRCA newsletter was an ad for a BT14 Brabham chassis, and one of my favourite cars. So I thought, oh, I'll go and have a look at it. Anyway, like, it was a nice little bot, just a, not a chassis, a body, sorry. Anyway, it was in good order. Anyway, I couldn't help myself. I ended up, I bought the body, and I brought it home. So I've made it, I had various other bits that I'd accumulated over the years, and I put it all together and made not a replica, but a car styled after a Brabham BT14. Yeah, it runs quite well. It's got Palliser rear uprights and all sorts of things. I designed the wheels. I'm very happy with the wheels. I had the pattern made and yeah.
So Bob, this looks like a Lotus.
Yeah, one day, my good friend Kerry Smith turned up here with a little 43 scale model of a Lotus 16. And I thought, what a beautiful little thing, you know, and I kept dreaming about it. And at the same time, the guy next door gave me a BMW 3118. So 318 rather. Anyway, I thought, geez, I'd love to make a car. So I put the two together, designed a chassis, and I had to make a body, which was a lot of work, but I love doing it. It's creative. And it's not a replica of a Lotus 16, but it's based on a Lotus 16. Yeah.
Hey Bob, this looks like a Lotus 7 on steroids.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I just dreamt it up one night. It's got a V6 Commodore engine in it, and it's got a few things about it. It's got the radiator in the back because I thought that the little aperture in the front of the Lotus 7 wouldn't, I couldn't get a big enough radiator in the front to cool a V6 engine. So I put the radiator in the back with a fan, and it works very, very good. It's got some grunt. The only thing is, it's got no weight over the back wheels, and it just spins wheels all the time. But anyway, other than that, it's a good little car. This is my current project. My good friend Les McClassy happened to have the moulds for a 300S Maserati body, and it was a beautiful shape, and I thought, gee, I'd love to make a car with that body on it. So I designed a chassis. It's not like a Maserati chassis, it's more like a Lotus 11 chassis. And to save money, I've just used Commodore parts. It's Commodore engine, gearbox, diff, wheels, brakes, everything. And I designed a chassis. I even used the Commodore radiator, and I just designed a chassis to hook all the parts up. It's got a Didion rear end, and it's coming along quite nicely. This is the rear end of this Maserati type car, and for simplicity I've used a Didion tube, which you can see here. But all the running gear is still Commodore, and it makes quite a simple rear end, and it works quite well. Get a long shot of it all. I've replaced that. On finishing up, I would like to thank Dave Williamson and Kerry for setting all this up. It's good that this could all go down on record, and maybe later on somebody might be able to have a look at it and appreciate what we used to go through in the old days. And thanks once again, fellas, it's been fantastic.